Hello everyone, my name is Arjun Upadhya and I am an officer trainee of the Indian Trade Service. Today, in collaboration with Delhi Knowledge Track, I am going to tell you a little bit about what the Indian Trade Service is, what the training entails, and many other such details about the service. The Indian Trade Service was established in 1985-86 and serves as the premier central government service which takes care and promotes India's external trade. The cadre strength of the Indian Trade Service is a little less than 200 officers. So it is a close-knit family of officers who are mainly engaged in promoting and facilitating external trade. Now let us take a look at what are the roles, responsibilities, and what are the different possibilities in the Indian Trade Service. Firstly, what you would like to know is that the nodal authority for control of the Indian Trade Service officers is the Directorate General of Foreign Trade, and the DGFT is headquartered in New Delhi. And apart from New Delhi, there are 38 different offices of the DGFT which are manned mainly by the Indian Trade Service officers. The Indian Trade Service officers herein are the regional authorities, as they are called, play many different roles which are all related to smoothening and encouraging India's external trade. Firstly, they are responsible to administer the export incentive schemes which are a part of the foreign trade policy of the Ministry of Commerce of Government of India. The Indian Trade Service officers also play a role as the Niryat Bandhu, that is, to help the exporters understand processes, procedures, and possibilities for external trade. Thirdly, the Indian Trade Service officers also are a part of the regional economic intelligence wings. Lastly, there is a daily interaction of the Indian Trade Service officers with the trade community to resolve their various queries and difficulties. Apart from the DGFT, the Indian Trade Service officers are also posted in the Directorate General of Trade Remedies. The DGTR is responsible for anti-dumping investigations, anti-circumvention investigations, countervailing investigations, and also safeguard investigations, and suggesting to the Government of India what needs to be done in these particular fields. Lastly, the DGTR is also responsible to support the Indian traders under countervailing duty investigations from foreign agencies. A third possibility where the Indian Trade Services officers may be posted is in the different ministries such as textiles and agriculture as trade advisors. A fourth possibility is to be posted in our own ministry, which is the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, in divisions such as the Trade Policy Divisions and the Regional and Multilateral Trade Division. In the Trade Policy Division, Indian Trade Service officers work as experts in WTO legal matters and advise different ministries on the nuances of being compliant with the WTO regulations. In the Trade Policy Division, there is also a possibility. In the RMTR division, however, Indian Trade Service officers are serving as negotiators for India with different countries for different FTAs and RTAs, such as the RCEP, which is ongoing. A fifth possibility for the Indian Trade Service officers is to be posted as development commissioners in special economic zones. The Indian Trade Service officers are also a part of the approval committees for the SEZs. So this is all about the roles and responsibilities of the Indian Trade Service. Now friends, let us know a little bit about the training of the Indian Trade Service officers. The Indian Institute of Foreign Trade in New Delhi is the nodal organization for training the Indian Trade Service officers. Here, the training is split into three phases broadly. The first phase, which is of 4 months, commences sometime in December or January, when the officers, after the examination process, join as Assistant Director General of Foreign Trade on probation. The first phase entails both classroom training and attachments to different cities to experience a whole different range of activities which is going on in relation to external trade. In terms of classroom training, various experts in the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade teach subjects such as global business environment, market identification, international marketing, customs procedures, and also various courses related to the World Trade Organization, which is very important for the Indian Trade Service officers. There is a total of 14 subjects that are usually covered in the first phase of the training, which lasts for 4 months. But the more exciting part, which we would like to know, is about our attachments. We have already been on a host of attachments starting from the Special Economic Zone in Noida. In Noida, we experienced firsthand how the SEZ Act is put into operation, how an SEZ operates, and we also had the opportunity to visit various units such as Phoenix, which is an electronics manufacturer, and various other units manufacturing a host of different products for export. We also visited an EOU, which is an export-oriented unit in automobile parts, and it was an experience that we always carry with us in terms of what we saw, the processes, and how Indian manufacturers and Indian units are contributing to India's external trade. Further, we also had the opportunity to visit and be trained for an entire week in the Administrative Staff College of India, which is located in Hyderabad. This entailed leadership training and personality development for the Indian Trade Service officers. The picturesque campus of the ASCII and the training that so received have helped us a lot and have expanded our horizons. Further, we also visited the port city of Kochi for a week-long attachment. Here, the Indian Trade Service officer trainees visited the Coir board, the Spices board, and also the Cochin port, and also the transshipment terminal in Vellarpadam. The reason behind having so many different attachments in so many bodies is that the Indian Trade Service officers must be sensitized to the current situation in India's different export categories such as spices, coir, etc. By visiting these boards, we understood in depth about the current problems, the current situation, and what can be done in the future, and what role we as Indian Trade Service officers can play in expanding India's export in these particular products. The visit to the Cochin port was also very exciting because we had the opportunity to see and to board a fantastic cruise liner in which we got the first-hand experience about how things are managed in certain tourism sectors such as the cruise sector. We also visited the transshipment terminal in Vellarpadam, in which we experienced the logistics part of how external trade happens. Further, we also had an attachment in Nasen, Mumbai. We experienced firsthand how the custom authorities are working in tandem with the DGFT officials and the Indian trade officers to make India's external trade a fruitful reality. We were trained in various aspects such as Customs Act, Customs Procedure, GST, and other aspects which the custom officers are responsible for primarily. By doing this, we enhance the interoperability and the collaboration between the Indian Trade Service and the Indian Revenue Service, Customs and Excise, which are both important pillars of India's external trade. Further, we got the opportunity to visit the Navasheva port in Mumbai, in which we also saw a huge container ship. We were given the opportunity to board the container ship and see in real time how containers are offloaded and onloaded onto this ship. This great experience was also followed up by a visit to the Principal Commissioner of Customs in Navasheva, and also a container freight station in which we could see the background of the logistic operations in Navasheva port. Further, we also had the opportunity to visit the Bharat Diamond Broche, in which we saw how the packets of rough diamond come and enter into India and are also taken out after certain operations, which adds value to it and are traded to different countries abroad. This was an enriching experience which gave us a first-hand experience of how external trade in diamonds happen and function throughout the world. And lastly, we also had the opportunity to visit SEEPS, which is an SEZ in Mumbai, and see the various activities that are conducted in this particular SEZ. The most interesting experience in SEEPS would be the visit to the jewelry unit, in which very high quality jewelry is being made and exported out of India. We were pleasantly surprised to see various technologies, including 3D printing, which are being employed in this particular unit, which makes the molds for the jewelry, and the full value chain of jewelry is set up within this unit. This gave you a brief insight into the phase 1 of our training here at the Indian Trade Service. The phase 2, which commences after the first 4 months, entails office attachments in the various offices as described before of the Indian Trade Service. This is the most important and enriching experience because we get to know firsthand how officers are working on the ground and dealing with different countries, different stakeholders, different industry organizations, and managing all of them to facilitate India's external trade. The last phase of our training, which is the last 2 months, is spent again at the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, where we undergo further classroom training in different subjects such as international trade, logistics, and commodity markets. This phase of training also has a host of attachments, starting with the parliamentary attachment, in which we spent an entire week understanding the processes, procedures of the parliament, interacting with many members of parliament, and also visited the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha during the sessions, in which we could witness the proceedings live. To be in the temple of democracy of India, to understand the democratic processes, was indeed an enriching experience. This phase of training also involves a visit to the Rashtrapati Bhavan to call on the Honorable President of India and interact with him and understand from him what the head of the Indian state expects from us as Indian Trade Service officers. There are also a host of attachments in the Azadpur APMC, Agra leather units, and many other such external trade units in and around Delhi. The last component of the third phase of our training is the very exciting international attachment. The international attachment of the Indian Trade Service officers will be held in Geneva, in which we'll be visiting the WTO, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, the International Trade Organization, South Center, and many such organizations related to promotion and regulation of international trade. So this was all about our training, which goes on for a period of 9 months. After a period of 9 months, we are posted in different locations in different roles as Indian Trade Service officers in the designation Assistant Director Generals of Foreign Trade. Now I'd like to talk to you about what education background and experience helps in making a good Indian Trade Service officer. As aspirants, you would be very interested in knowing that there is no limitation on the backgrounds from which you can come from. For example, engineers who enter into the Indian Trade Service are extremely confident in their roles because of their technical background, which helps them understand the nitty-gritties of manufacturing and services which constitute India's external trade. The aspirants who have a law background who come into the Indian Trade Services have an exciting career waiting for them as officers in the DGFT headquarters, where a lot of litigation matters are taken care of, and the same goes for the regional authorities of DGFT. Also exciting is the possibility of serving in the Directorate General of Trade Remedies, in which the law background helps immensely. Lastly, the Trade Policy Division is also one place where lawyers can shine. Further, people who come from backgrounds such as economics or management also have a very exciting time in the Indian Trade Services because of their penchant for economics, trade, which is already ingrained into them as a part of their training. Further, people who come from backgrounds such as commerce and professional training such as chartered accountancy have an excellent opportunity in the Indian Trade Service because of their understanding of matters such as corporate law. Lastly, I'd like to also talk a little bit about the examination perspective and aspirants of what rank are getting into the Indian Trade Services. The ranks at which the entry into Indian Trade Services purely depends upon the preferences that the candidates go for. For instance, in the 2017 examinations, a candidate with the rank of 239 has opted for the Indian Trade Service. The closing ranks for entry into the Indian Trade Service varies from about late 500s for general category to about 800 for other backward classes candidates. But the important thing to know is that if you have a penchant for international trade, an inclination towards economics and activities of facilitating and growing the economy, the Indian Trade Service might be just the thing that you're looking for. For people who are interested in knowing more about the Indian Trade Service, can go to the link which is in the description below. The link is to a blog written by a serving Indian Trade Service officer. In this blog, you can find more about the roles and responsibilities and the possibilities for an Indian Trade Service officer. It also gives you a brief glimpse into what an Indian Trade Service officer does day in and day out as a part of his job. Thank you for listening to me today, and I hope that I have given you a brief insight into the Indian Trade Service. Hopefully, I will see some of you in the future serving alongside me in the Indian Trade Services. Goodbye.